September 12, 1992, 10:23 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Kennedy Space Center, Florida. Dr. Mae Carol Jemison sits strapped inside the Space Shuttle Endeavour. She's 35 years old. She's wearing a white and blue NASA flight suit with patches on the shoulders. Her heart is pounding so hard she can feel it in her throat. The shuttle is vibrating. The cockpit smells like metal and recycled air and something chemical she can't quite name. Through the small window to her left, she can see the Florida sky bright blue and endless. In exactly 7 minutes, 5 million pounds of rocket fuel are going to ignite beneath her. In exactly 7 minutes, she's going to experience 3 times the force of gravity pressing against her chest. In exactly 7 minutes, she's going to break through Earth's atmosphere at 17,500 miles per hour. But right now, in this moment, sitting in this seat, Mae Jemison is thinking about a kindergarten teacher from Chicago, a white woman who looked at 5-year-old Mae 30 years ago and said, "Colored girls don't become scientists. Maybe you could be a nurse." She's thinking about the NASA recruiter who told her in 1985 that the astronaut program wasn't accepting applications right now, even though they were. She's thinking about the Stanford engineering professor who looked through her like she was invisible every single time she raised her hand in class. She's thinking about the advisor who suggested she switch to a more suitable major, like education, because engineering is very demanding, and we want you to succeed. She's thinking about every person who ever said no to her, every system designed to keep her out, every qualification requirement that kept getting higher and higher the closer she got. And then the engines ignite. The entire shuttle shakes like it's going to tear apart. The roar is so loud it feels like it's inside her skull. And Mae Jemison, the first black woman ever selected for the astronaut program, the girl from Chicago who had to earn 2 bachelor's degrees and a medical degree and serve in the Peace Corps in West Africa just to be considered for a job that white men got with a pilot's license, starts to smile. Because in 190 hours, she's going to orbit the Earth 127 times. She's going to conduct 44 life science experiments. She's going to prove that a black woman belongs in space. But the journey to this moment, the systematic erasure of black women who built NASA, the hidden figures who calculated moon landings but got 0 credit, the discrimination that continues today, right now in 2026. That story was buried in classified documents and lost archives and textbooks that deliberately erased the truth. Until now, what happened over the next 8 days would make headlines. But what happened over the previous 35 years, the obstacles Mae had to overcome, the racism she had to survive, the excellence she had to prove over and over and over just to get this one chance, that story would be footnoted, minimized, erased, and the black women who came before her, the mathematicians and engineers and programmers who literally built the space program with their calculations, while being segregated into colored bathrooms and paid half what white men earned, their names wouldn't even make it into the textbooks. This isn't a good story about a smart girl who worked hard and achieved her dreams. This is about systematic exclusion. This is about black women whose genius built America's greatest technological achievement, but who were erased from every history book for 50 years. This is about a woman who had to be 3 times more qualified than any white man just to get considered. This is about stolen credit and stolen wages and stolen history. And it's still happening today, right now, in 2026. After this video, you'll understand why only 11 black women have ever been to space in NASA's entire 68-year history. You'll understand why your daughter or granddaughter who wants to be an engineer will face the same discrimination Mae faced in 1977. You'll understand why the wealth gap in STEM careers exists, and it has nothing to do with qualifications and everything to do with systematic theft. This isn't ancient history. Mae Jemison is alive today. She's 68 years old. She's watching this country repeat the same patterns of exclusion she fought against 40 years ago. By the end of this video, you'll know why Mae needed 2 bachelor's degrees, a medical degree, and 2 years in the Peace Corps before NASA even looked at her application, while white male astronauts were accepted with just military pilot experience. You'll know the names of 3 black women scientists whose work sent men to the moon, but who were completely erased from the historical record until 2016. You'll know how NASA's so-called qualification requirements were specifically designed to keep black women out until 1987. You'll know why Mae brought a piece of African art and a photograph of Bessie Coleman, the first black female pilot, with her to space-carrying symbols of stolen heritage into orbit. And you'll never see NASA's diversity success stories the same way again. Because this isn't about one exceptional black woman who broke barriers. This is about hundreds of exceptional black women who were brilliant enough to build the entire space program, but were deliberately kept invisible. This is about the system that stole their credit, stole their wages, stole their names from history. This is about your stolen inheritance. Your grandmother lived through this. Your mother survived this. Your daughter is still facing this. And today, you're going to learn what they never taught you in school. Let's begin. Mae Carol Jemison was born on October 17, 1956, in Decatur, Alabama. Born in a city that still had colored-only water fountains. Born in a state where black people couldn't vote without risking their lives. Born 2 years after Brown versus Board of Education supposedly ended school segregation, but Jim Crow was alive and well in Alabama in 1956. Her father was Charlie Jemison. He worked as a maintenance supervisor and a roofer. He put up roofs in the Alabama heat to feed his family. Her mother was Dorothy Green Jemison. She was an elementary school teacher. She taught in segregated black schools where the textbooks were hand-me-downs from white schools. Pages torn out information, outdated by 10 years. Mae was the youngest of 3 children. She had a sister and a brother. And when Mae was 3 years old in 1959, her parents made a decision that would change everything. They left Alabama. They moved to Chicago, Illinois. Why? Because Chicago had better jobs, better schools, less overt terrorism. The Great Migration was still happening in 1959. And millions of black families fleeing the South, looking for opportunity, looking for safety, looking for a chance. But let me tell you what Chicago was like in 1959. This wasn't some promised land. This was the North, where racism was just as real, but wore a suit and tie instead of a Klan hood. Chicago was segregated by redlining. Black families couldn't buy homes in white neighborhoods because banks literally drew red lines on maps marking black areas as too risky for loans. Chicago had race riots. Chicago had housing discrimination. Chicago had police brutality. But Chicago also had something Alabama didn't have in 1959. It had black schools that were actually funded. It had libraries. It had teachers who believed black children could learn. And Mae's mother, Dorothy, was one of those teachers who believed. From the time Mae could talk, she was asking questions. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds fly? Why do we dream? Her mother didn't say, "Stop asking so many questions." Her mother didn't say little girls should be seen and not heard. Her mother went to the library and checked out science books and sat with Mae and found the answers. When Mae was 5 years old in kindergarten, her teacher asked the class, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Mae said, "I want to be a scientist." And the teacher, a white woman, smiled in that condescending way. Teachers smile at children who don't understand the world yet. She said, "Don't you mean a nurse? That's a wonderful job for a girl like you." A girl like you. 5 years old and already being told what she could and couldn't be. Already being redirected away from science and towards service. Already learning that the world had decided her future before she even had a chance to dream. But Mae said, "No, I want to be a scientist." The teacher didn't argue. She just moved on to the next student. But the message was clear. Colored girls don't become scientists. Mae went home and told her mother what happened. And her mother said something that would shape the rest of Mae's life. She said, "You can be anything you want to be. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Now think about what that meant in 1961. Think about what Dorothy Jemison was telling her daughter. This was before the Civil Rights Act. This was before the Voting Rights Act. This was when black children were still being bombed in churches in Birmingham. This was when black men were still being lynched in Mississippi. This was when the entire structure of American society was designed to keep black people poor and powerless and confined to specific roles. And Dorothy Jemison looked at her 5-year-old daughter and said, "You can be anything you want to be." That's not naive optimism. That's not delusional. That's revolutionary. That's spiritual warfare. That's a black mother refusing to let white supremacy define her child's future. So Mae kept studying science. She went to the library every week. She checked out books about astronomy, biology, and chemistry. She watched the stars from her backyard in Chicago. She built little experiments in her room. She dissected insects. She mixed chemicals. She dreamed. And she watched the space program on television. The Apollo missions. The Mercury missions. The Gemini missions. She watched white men in spacesuits walking on launch pads. She watched rockets launching into the sky. She watched mission control celebrating successful missions. And one day, when she was about 8 or 9 years old, Mae asked her mother a question that millions of black children were asking, but not many were saying out loud. She said, "Mom, why aren't there any women astronauts?" Now notice what Mae didn't ask. She didn't ask why there weren't any black astronauts. She asked why there weren't any women. Because Mae was already thinking bigger than race. She was already thinking in multiple dimensions. She was already understanding intersectionality before the word was even invented. And her mother could have said, "Because women can't be astronauts." She could have said, "Because that's a man's job." She could have said, "Because NASA doesn't want women." But Dorothy Jemison said something brilliant. She said, "They just haven't picked any women yet. Haven't picked any yet. Not can't, not won't, not shouldn't. Haven't yet." That's the power of language. That's the power of a mother who refuses to limit her daughter's imagination. Dorothy didn't say it was impossible. She said it hadn't happened yet, which meant it could happen, which meant Mae could be the one to make it happen. So Mae decided right there at 8 or 9 years old that she was going to be an astronaut. But she also loved something else. She loved dance. She started taking dance classes when she was about 9 years old. Ballet, jazz, modern dance, and later African dance. She was good, really good. Good enough that her dance teachers started saying, Mae, you could be a professional dancer. You could have a real career in this. And suddenly, Mae had a dilemma, because the world told her she had to choose. You can be a scientist, or you can be a dancer. You can be logical, or you can be artistic. You can be left brain or right brain. Pick one. And Mae said, no, I'm going to be both. Think about the audacity of that decision. Think about a young black girl in 1960s Chicago saying, I refuse to be put in a box. I refuse to choose between science and art. I refuse to let you limit me. That's not just confidence. That's rebellion. That's resistance. That's a rejection of every category the world tried to force her into. Mae kept dancing. She kept studying science. She excelled at both. She went to Morgan Park High School on the south side of Chicago. She was in advanced science classes. She was in dance performances. She was president of student organizations. She was voted most popular. She was thriving. And in 1973, at 16 years old, Mae Jemison was accepted to Stanford University in California. 16 years old. Most kids are juniors in high school. Mae was heading to one of the most prestigious universities in America, not because of affirmative action, not because of diversity quotas, because she was brilliant, because she earned it, because her test scores and her grades and her applications were undeniable. But here's what they don't tell you about being a young black woman at a predominantly white elite institution in 1973. Here's what the success story leaves out. Stanford had about 1,500 freshmen in 1973. Do you know how many were black? Less than 100. Do you know how many were black women? Maybe 30? Maybe. Mae walked onto that campus and immediately understood she was not supposed to be there. Not according to the system. Not according to the professors who looked surprised when she spoke intelligently in class. Not according to the students who assumed she was admitted because of her race, not her qualifications. She chose a double major, chemical engineering and African American studies. Why both? Because Mae understood something most people don't. She understood that to survive as a black woman in a white institution, you need two types of knowledge. You need the technical knowledge to prove you belong in the room. And you need the historical knowledge to understand why they don't want you in the room. Chemical engineering because she wanted to prove black excellence in STEM. African studies because she wanted to reclaim stolen black history. 1 degree to open doors. 1 degree to understand why the doors were closed in the first place. And from day one at Stanford, Mae faced discrimination that was subtle and systematic and absolutely deliberate. Let me paint you a picture of what this looked like. Imagine you're in an engineering class. You're one of maybe 3 black students. You're the only black woman. The professor is lecturing about thermodynamics or fluid mechanics or chemical processes. You understand the material. You've done the reading. You've worked the problems. You raise your hand to answer a question. The professor looks right past you. Don't call on you. Calls on a white male student 3 rows behind you who also has his hand raised. That student gives the exact same answer you would have given. The professor says, "Excellent. Great thinking." You lower your hand. You tell yourself, maybe he didn't see you. Maybe it was an accident. Next class, same thing. You raise your hand. He ignores you. You raise your hand again. He calls on someone else. This happens 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, until you stop raising your hand because what's the point? And then one day you do get called on. You give your answer. The professor pauses. He doesn't respond. He just moves on like you didn't speak. But 10 minutes later, A white male student says the exact same thing you said, and the professor stops the class and says, "That's a brilliant insight. Let's explore that further." Your answer ignored. His answer, which was, "Your answer brilliant." This wasn't one professor. This wasn't one class. This was the culture. This was the environment. This was Stanford University in 1973. Mae told an interviewer years later, "They look through me, not at me." As if a black woman couldn't possibly understand thermodynamics. But it got worse. Mae had an academic advisor, someone who was supposed to guide her through her degree, help her plan her courses, and support her education. And one day, that advisor sat Mae down and suggested she switch majors. He said, "Engineering is very demanding. We want you to succeed. Have you thought about education or nursing? Those are wonderful fields for someone like you." Someone like you. There's that phrase again. Code for you doesn't belong here. Mae said, "I'm doing fine in engineering. I'm getting good grades." And the advisor said, "Yes, but it gets harder. We wouldn't want you to get overwhelmed." He wasn't trying to help her. He was trying to push her out. He was using concern as a weapon. He was suggesting failure before she even had a chance to fail. Because the system didn't want black women in engineering. The system wanted black women in service roles. Teaching, nursing, support staff, not scientists, not engineers, not leaders. Mae didn't switch majors. She stayed in chemical engineering. And she worked twice as hard as everyone else because she knew she had to. She knew that if a white male student got a B, people would say he had a bad week. But if Mae got a B, people would say, "See, she doesn't belong here." So she got A's. She studied longer. She worked harder. She asked fewer questions because she didn't want to seem like she didn't understand. She made herself invisible in class because being visible meant being a target. And here's the thing about being a black woman in a space that doesn't want you. You can never be sure why you're being discriminated against. Is it because you're black? Is it because you're a woman? Is it because you're young? Is it because you're all three? The discrimination is real, but the reason is unclear. And that ambiguity is part of the weapon, because you can't fight back if you can't name what's happening. Mae said years later, "I had to decide, am I being dismissed because I'm black, because I'm a woman, or because I'm both?" The answer is, it doesn't matter. The result is the same. Erasure. Erasure. That's the perfect word. Not violence, not overt hatred. Erasure. Being looked through, being ignored, being dismissed, being suggested out of your major, being made to feel like you're the problem. But Mae had something most people didn't have. She had a mother who told her she could be anything. She had faith. She had stubbornness. She had rage that she channeled into excellence. She refused to quit. She refused to accept the narrative that she didn't belong. And she found a community. She became the president of the Black Student Union at Stanford. She organized events. She put together a production of musical and dance performances called Out of the Shadows, celebrating Black artistic excellence. She kept dancing. She kept studying African history. She kept reminding herself that she wasn't just an engineering student. She was a descendant of people who built pyramids, a descendant of people who survived the Middle Passage, a descendant of people who were enslaved and still learned to read in secret, risking death for education. She wasn't going to let Stanford break her. She was going to break Stanford's assumptions about who could be an engineer. And in 1977, at 21 years old, Mae Carol Jemison graduated from Stanford University with 2 bachelor's degrees. A Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering, a Bachelor of Arts in African and African American Studies. 2 degrees. Not 1, 2, because 1 wasn't enough. Because the bar for Black women is always higher. Because Mae understood that to get half the recognition, she had to deliver twice the excellence. But here's what Mae also understood. Graduating from Stanford with an engineering degree wasn't going to be enough to get into NASA. She knew the history. She knew NASA had only started accepting women in 1978. She knew NASA had only sent 1 Black man to space, Guion Bluford, in 1983. She knew no Black woman had ever been accepted into the astronaut program. She knew the door was closed. And she knew if she wanted to break it down, she needed more credentials, more qualifications, more undeniable excellence. So she didn't apply to NASA, not yet. Instead, she applied to medical school. She was going to become a doctor. Why medicine? Because Mae understood strategy. She understood that NASA wanted scientists. They wanted doctors. They wanted people with skills that would be useful in space, conducting experiments, managing health crises, and solving problems. And Mae knew that having a medical degree on top of an engineering degree would make her application impossible to ignore. So in 1977, Mae enrolled at Cornell University Medical College in New York. Think about that. 4 years of undergraduate work, 2 majors. Both are demanding, both are rigorous. And instead of taking a break, instead of working for a few years, Mae jumped straight into medical school, one of the hardest graduate programs in the world. 4 years of studying diseases in anatomy and pharmacology and surgery, 4 years of overnight shifts and 100-hour work weeks, and memorizing thousands of pages of medical information. And while she was at Cornell, Mae didn't just study. She traveled. She went to Cuba to study medicine and healthcare systems. She went to rural Kenya and worked with the Flying Doctors, a program that provided medical care to remote villages. She went to Thailand and worked in refugee camps providing care to Cambodian refugees fleeing genocide. She was 21, 22, 23 years old studying medicine and also working in some of the most medically underserved places in the world. She was learning Spanish. She was learning Swahili. She was learning how to practice medicine without resources, without equipment, without backup. And she kept dancing. She took classes at the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater in New York, world-famous dance company. She would finish a 12-hour medical school rotation and then go to dance class. Because Mae refused to give up art for science. She refused to be one-dimensional. In 1981, Mae graduated from Cornell with her medical degree. She was 24 years old. She had 2 bachelor's degrees and a medical degree. She completed her internship at Los Angeles County USC Medical Center. She was a licensed physician. And she still didn't apply to NASA. She still wasn't ready. She still didn't have enough credentials to break through the door they didn't want to open. So she did something else, something most people thought was crazy. She joined the Peace Corps. The Peace Corps is a U.S. government program that sends American volunteers to developing countries to provide education, healthcare, and technical expertise. It's hard, it's isolated, it's low-paying. Most people do it for a year or 2 and then come home. Mae went to West Africa. She served in Sierra Leone and Liberia from 1983 to 1985. 2.5 years. She was the medical officer for the Peace Corps in that region. She managed healthcare for Peace Corps volunteers and staff. She developed guidelines and protocols for medical emergencies. She supervised pharmacies. She treated malaria, typhoid, infectious diseases most American doctors never see. She was in her mid-20s, living in rural Africa, practicing medicine in conditions most American doctors couldn't imagine. No advanced medical equipment, no specialists to consult, no hospital down the street. Just her training, her intelligence, and her faith. And something happened while Mae was in Africa. Something that changed everything. June 18, 1983. Mae Jemison is in West Africa working in a small medical clinic in Sierra Leone. She's treating patients. She's managing supplies. She's doing the work. But that night she turns on the radio and she hears the news from America. Sally Ride, a white American woman, has just become the first American woman in space. She flew on the Space Shuttle Challenger as a mission specialist. She made history. Mae listens to the broadcast. She's happy for Sally Ride. She really is. But she's also thinking, if she can do it, why can't I? Then 2 months later, August 30th, 1983, another broadcast. Guion Bluford, a black American man, becomes the first African American in space. He's an Air Force pilot. He's a mission specialist on the Challenger, and he makes history too. Mae is sitting in Africa listening to this news, and something crystallizes in her mind. Sally Ride proved that women can be astronauts. Guion Bluford proved that black people can be astronauts. But there's still a gap. There's still a missing piece. A black woman. No one has done that. No one has even tried. And Mae decides right there in a medical clinic in Sierra Leone in 1983 that she's going to be the first black woman in space. But here's what Mae also notices. Here's what makes her pause. Sally Ride was selected for NASA's astronaut program in 1978. That was the first year NASA accepted women. Before 1978, NASA's official policy was no women allowed. The justification: women are too emotional. Women can't handle the physical stress. Women don't have the right qualifications. For 20 years, from 1958, when NASA was founded, until 1978, not a single woman was accepted. Not because women weren't qualified, because NASA didn't want women. And Guion Bluford, he was an Air Force pilot with a PhD in aerospace engineering. He was selected in 1978, the same year as Sally Ride. He was the first black astronaut to fly, but he wasn't the first black astronaut selected. That was Robert Lawrence, who was selected in 1967, but died in a training accident before he could fly. NASA didn't select another black astronaut for 11 years. So Mae is doing the math. NASA accepted women in 1978. NASA accepted black men in 1978. But as of 1983, NASA has never accepted a black woman. Not one. Not in 25 years of the space program. Why? Because black women face double discrimination. We're not women to the feminists who only think about white women. We're not black to the civil rights leaders who only think about black men. We're invisible. We're erased. We're the gap between movements. Mae understands this. She's been living it her whole life. At Stanford, she didn't know if she was being discriminated against for being black, or being a woman, or being both. At Cornell, same thing. In the Peace Corps, same thing. And now, looking at NASA's history, she sees the pattern. They let in white women, they let in black men, but black women still locked out. And Mae decides she's going to break that door down. But she knows she can't do it the way Sally Ride did. She can't do it the way Guion Bluford did. Because the bar for black women is always higher. Always. So Mae comes up with a plan. She's going to finish her Peace Corps service. She's going to go back to the United States, She's going to work as a doctor for a few years to build even more experience. And she's going to take graduate-level engineering courses to refresh her technical skills. And then, when NASA opens the next astronaut selection, she's going to apply with a resume so impressive they have no excuse to reject her. 2 bachelor's degrees, medical degree, Peace Corps service, clinical medicine experience, graduate engineering courses, fluent in multiple languages. If they reject her, it won't be because she's not qualified. It'll be because they don't want black women in space. And if that's the case, Mae is ready to fight. So in 1985, Mae returns to the United States. She moves to Los Angeles. She starts working as a general practitioner, seeing patients, building her reputation. And at night, she takes engineering courses at UCLA, making sure her technical skills are sharp. And then, in January 1986, something happens that changes everything. January 28, 1986. The Space Shuttle Challenger launches from Kennedy Space Center. 73 seconds into the flight, the shuttle breaks apart. All 7 crew members die. The entire nation watches on live television as the shuttle explodes in the sky, leaving white smoke trails against the blue. One of the astronauts who died, Ronald McNair, the second black American in space, a physicist, a mission specialist, gone. NASA shuts down the entire astronaut program. No new selections, no new flights. Everything stops while they investigate what went wrong. For over a year, NASA is in crisis mode. Mae watches the Challenger disaster on television. She's devastated. 7 people dead. The space program halted. Her dream was delayed. But Mae doesn't give up. She keeps working. She keeps studying. She keeps preparing because she knows NASA will open the program again eventually. And when they do, she's going to be ready. Finally, in 1987, NASA announced their reopening astronaut selection. They're accepting applications again. Mae has been waiting for this moment for years. She has everything ready. Resume. References, medical records, academic transcripts. She submits her application. And then she waits. Do you know how many people applied to NASA's astronaut program in 1987? Around 2 million. Pilots, scientists, engineers, doctors, people from all over the country, all with impressive credentials, all dreaming of going to space. NASA selected 15. Let me show you something. Let me compare Mae Jemison's qualifications to the typical white male astronaut selected in the 1980s. Mae Jemison had a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering. She had a Bachelor of Arts in African American Studies. She had a Doctor of Medicine degree. She had 2.5 years of Peace Corps service in West Africa as a medical officer. She had clinical medicine experience. She had graduate-level engineering courses. She was fluent in English, Russian, Japanese, and Swahili. She was a trained dancer. She was 30 years old. The typical white male astronaut selected in the 1980s had a Bachelor of Science in Engineering or a military pilot license. That's it. Some had master's degrees. Most didn't. Most didn't have medical degrees. Most didn't have Peace Corps service. Most didn't speak multiple languages. They were qualified, yes. But they weren't more qualified than Mae. And yet NASA's acceptance rate for white male applicants was significantly higher than for black female applicants. Why? Because the so-called qualification requirements were designed to exclude. NASA would say they wanted the best. But best always meant people who looked like the people already there. Best meant white. Best meant male. Best meant military pilots from the Air Force or Navy. When a black woman showed up with better qualifications than most of the white men, NASA found other reasons to reject. She doesn't have military experience. She doesn't have test pilot experience. She doesn't fit the culture. She's not the right personality. Always something, always an excuse. But Mae's application was undeniable. 2 degrees, medical degree, Peace Corps, languages, experience, age, physical fitness, psychological evaluations, interviews. She aced everything. And on June 4th, 1987, Mae Jemison received a phone call from NASA. She was one of 15 people selected out of 2,000 applicants. She was the first black woman ever accepted into NASA's astronaut training program. Think about that date. June 4, 1987. NASA was founded in 1958. That's 29 years. For 29 years, NASA never selected a black woman. For 29 years, NASA claimed that no black women were qualified, even though black women had been working at NASA as mathematicians and engineers since the 1940s. Mae Jemison was the first, but she shouldn't have been. There should have been dozens of black women before her. There should have been black women in the Mercury program, in the Gemini program, in the Apollo program, in the Skylab program, but they were locked out, deliberately, systematically. And now in 1987, Mae was about to walk into a space that didn't want her. She was about to train for 5 years in an environment where she was the only black woman, where people would assume she was a diversity hire, not the most qualified applicant, where she would face the same microaggressions, the same erasure, the same discrimination she faced at Stanford. But Mae wasn't scared. She was ready. She had been preparing for this her entire life. She moved to Houston, Texas. She reported to NASA's Johnson Space Center. She started training. Astronaut training is brutal. It's 5 years of the most intense physical, mental, and technical preparation imaginable. You learn how to fly jets. You learn spacecraft systems. You learn how to operate the robotic arm. You learn geology for potential planetary missions. You learn survival skills in case you land in the ocean or the desert or the Arctic after re-entry. You train in centrifuges that spin you until you experience multiple times the force of gravity. You train underwater in massive pools wearing spacesuits, simulating spacewalks. You study Russian because you need to communicate with Russian cosmonauts on joint missions. Mae Jemison did all of this from 1987 to 1992. 5 years of training. And during those 5 years, she was one of very few women in the program. She was the only black woman. And that isolation, that constant awareness that you don't look like everyone else, that people are watching you differently, evaluating you differently, assuming things about you. That's exhausting. Mae later said that some of her colleagues assumed she was admitted because of diversity requirements, not because of merit, even though her qualifications were better than most of theirs, even though she had earned everything on her resume. The assumption was still there. You're here because you're black. You're here because you're a woman. You're here to fill a quota. And there's no way to fight that assumption. If you excel, they say, well, she has to excel, or she'll prove the diversity hire stereotype true. If you struggle with anything, they say, see, she wasn't really qualified. You can't win. The game is rigged, but Mae didn't waste energy trying to convince people. She just did the work. She learned the systems. She passed the tests. She proved herself every single day, not because she needed to prove anything to them, but because she needed to be ready when her opportunity came. And finally, in 1992, 5 years after starting training, Mae Jemison was assigned to a mission. Space Transportation System 47. STS-47, Space Shuttle Endeavour, a joint mission with Japan called Space Lab J. The mission would conduct 44 life science and materials processing experiments. And Mae would be one of 7 crew members. She would be the Science Mission Specialist. September 12th, 1992. That's where we started this story. Mae sitting in the shuttle engines about to ignite, heart-pounding, thinking about everyone who said she couldn't be there. At 10:23 a.m. Eastern Time, the engines ignited. 5 million pounds of thrust. The shuttle shook. Mae felt 3 times the force of gravity pressing her into her seat. Her vision narrowed. Her chest felt compressed. She couldn't move. All she could do was breathe and trust the machine and trust her training. 8.5 minutes later, the main engines cut off. Suddenly, everything went quiet. The pressure released, and Mae Carol Jemison was floating, weightless, in space, orbiting Earth at 17,500 miles per hour. She was the first black woman in space, ever, in human history. She looked out the window. She saw the curve of the Earth below, blue oceans, white clouds, brown continents. No borders visible from up here, no countries, no divisions, just one planet, one home. And Mae thought about her ancestors. She thought about the people stolen from Africa and brought to America in chains. She thought about the enslaved people who were denied education, denied freedom, denied humanity. She thought about the people lynched for trying to vote, for trying to own land, for trying to be successful. She thought about her parents who fled Alabama looking for opportunity. She thought about her mother who told her she could be anything. And here she was, orbiting Earth, a descendant of enslaved people, a descendant of survivors, floating in space, conducting scientific experiments, representing not just herself, not just black women, not just America, but the resilience of a people who refuse to be broken. Mae brought 3 things with her to space. She was allowed small personal items, and she chose carefully. She brought a small African art statue. She brought a poster from the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. And she brought a photograph of Bessie Coleman. Bessie Coleman was born in 1892 in Texas. She wanted to be a pilot. But in America in the early 1900s, no flight school would accept a black woman. So Bessie taught herself. French moved to France, got her pilot's license there, came back to America, and became a stunt pilot. She performed at air shows. She inspired thousands of black people to dream of flying. And in 1926, she died in a plane crash during a rehearsal. She was 34 years old. Mae brought Bessie's photo because she understood legacy. She understood that she wasn't the first black woman who wanted to fly. She was just the first who got the chance. And that chance came because women like Bessie fought and died for it. Women whose names most people don't know. Women who were erased from history. Mae stayed in space for 190 hours. That's 7 days, 22 hours, and 30 minutes. She orbited Earth 127 times. She traveled over 3 million miles, and she conducted experiments. She studied how weightlessness affects bone cells, because bone density loss is one of the biggest challenges for long-term space travel. She studied motion sickness. She studied frog embryos to see how fertilization works in zero gravity. She collected data that would help future missions. She wasn't just a symbol. She wasn't just there to make history. She was there to work. She was there to contribute to science. She was there to prove that black women belong in space, not as tokens, but as essential members of the team. On September 20th, 1992, the Endeavour landed at Kennedy Space Center. Mae Jemison climbed out of the shuttle. She had done it. She had gone to space and come back safely. She was now officially an astronaut. She had shattered a ceiling that had been closed for 34 years. The media coverage was interesting. White media outlets called it a diversity win for NASA. They framed it as affirmative action working. They said things like NASA proves it's committed to inclusion, as if Mae's selection was about politics, not qualifications. As if NASA deserved credit for finally, after 34 years, allowing a black woman to do what she was qualified to do. Black media outlets told the story differently. They said, Mae Jemison breaks 400-year ceiling. They celebrated a descendant of enslaved people reaching space. They celebrated excellence. They celebrated history. Mae herself was clear about what this meant. In an interview, she said, "This shouldn't have taken until 1992. I shouldn't be the first. There should have been black women in space decades ago. The fact that it took this long is not something to celebrate. It's something to correct." And then Mae did something that shocked everyone. In 1993, after just one spaceflight, she resigned from NASA. She left the astronaut program. People couldn't understand why. You just made history. You could fly again. You could lead missions. You could become a commander. Why leave? Mae said he proved the point. Now I have other work to do. See, Mae realized something important. Being the first is not enough. Opening the door is not enough if the system stays the same. Mae looked around NASA and saw that she was still the only black woman in the astronaut corps. She saw that NASA was still predominantly white and male. She saw that representation had barely changed, and she realized that staying at NASA and flying a few more missions wasn't going to change the system. So she left, and she started building something else. She founded the Jemison Group, a technology consulting company focused on bringing advanced technology to developing countries. She became a professor at Cornell and Dartmouth, teaching and mentoring students. She started writing books and giving talks about science and diversity. She created programs to encourage young people, especially young women and minorities, to pursue STEM careers. In 2011, Mae started something called the 100-Year Starship Project. The goal: make human travel to another star system possible within the next 100 years. Not just orbiting Earth, not just going to Mars, traveling to another star. That's the kind of vision Mae operates with. That's the kind of ambition she has. Today in 2026, Mae Jemison is 68 years old. She's still working. She's still speaking. She's still fighting for equity in STEM. She's still challenging systems. She's still refusing to be limited. And her legacy. 11 black women have been to space in NASA's entire history. 11. Out of more than 360 American astronauts total. That's 3%. Black women are 6.5% of the U.S. population. We're underrepresented by more than half. Mae opened the door in 1992, but the door is still barely cracked. The system is still excluding black women. The discrimination is still happening. And that's why Mae's story matters. Not just because she succeeded, but because her success exposed how broken the system is. But hold on, because what I'm about to tell you next will make you furious. Because Mae wasn't the only black woman with the talent to go to space. She wasn't even the first black woman qualified to go to space. She was just the first one NASA allowed. There were black women at NASA decades before Mae. Black women whose mathematical genius literally made the space program possible. And they were completely erased from history. Until 2016, most Americans had never heard their names. And even now, most textbooks don't teach their stories. let me introduce you to the women who built NASA while being segregated, underpaid, and erased. Her name was Katherine Johnson, born 1918 in White Sulphur Springs, West Virginia. Her father was a farmer and a janitor. Her mother was a teacher. Katherine was brilliant from childhood. She could count before she could talk. She skipped grades. She graduated high school at 14. She graduated college at 18 with degrees in mathematics and French. In 1953, Katherine got a job at the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics NACA, which would later become NASA. She was hired as a computer, not the electronic kind, the human kind. Before electronic computers, NASA employed dozens of women to do complex mathematical calculations by hand. They were called computers, human computers. And most of these human computers were black women. They worked in a segregated unit called West Area Computing. Separate building, separate bathrooms, separate dining area, the colored computers. Katherine's job was to calculate trajectories for aircraft and spacecraft. She used differential equations, geometry, and calculus to figure out launch windows, orbital paths, and re-entry angles. This is some of the most complex mathematics in existence. And Katherine did it with a pencil and paper. In 1961, NASA was preparing to send Alan Shepard into space. He would be the first American in space. The mission was called Freedom 7. The calculations for his trajectory were done by Katherine Johnson. She calculated the path the capsule would take, the speed, the angle, the splashdown location, everything. Alan Shepard's flight was successful. He went to space and came back safely because of Katherine's calculations. In 1962, NASA was preparing for an even bigger mission. John Glenn would be the first American to orbit the Earth. This was huge. The Soviets had already done it with Yuri Gagarin. America needed to catch up. But orbital mechanics are incredibly complex. The capsule would orbit Earth 3 times before re-entering. Any mistake in the calculations could send the capsule into the wrong trajectory, burn up on re-entry, or miss the landing zone entirely. NASA had just started using electronic computers to calculate trajectories. Big IBM machines that filled entire rooms. But John Glenn didn't trust them. Computers were new. Computers made mistakes. And John Glenn's life depended on these calculations being right. So before the mission, John Glenn said, "Get the girl to check the numbers. If she says they're good, I'm ready to go." The girl. He meant Katherine Johnson. John Glenn trusted Katherine's calculations more than the computer's calculations. He knew Katherine was brilliant. He knew if Katherine said the math was right, it was right. Katherine checked the numbers. She went through every calculation the computer made, by hand, with a pencil, and she confirmed the computer was correct. John Glenn launched on February 20th, 1962. He orbited Earth 3 times. He landed safely because Katherine Johnson confirmed the math. And then, in 1969, NASA prepared for the Apollo 11 mission, putting men on the moon, the most complex space mission ever attempted. The calculations had to account for Earth's orbit, the moon's orbit, lunar gravity launch windows, trajectory corrections, lunar module descent-ascent from the moon, docking with the command module, and re-entry to Earth. Thousands of calculations, millions of variables. Katherine Johnson worked on those calculations. She calculated the trajectory for Apollo 11. She calculated the backup procedures in case something went wrong. And on July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon because Katherine Johnson's math put them there. So let me ask you a question. When you learned about the moon landing in school, did anyone mention Katherine Johnson? When you watched documentaries about Apollo 11, did they show Katherine's face? When history books talk about the brilliant minds that made space travel possible, is Katherine's name there? For most of you, the answer is no. You never heard of Katherine Johnson. You never knew a black woman calculated the moon landing. You were taught that NASA engineers did it. And when you pictured NASA engineers, you pictured white men in short-sleeved shirts and thin ties smoking cigarettes in mission control. Katherine Johnson worked at NASA for 33 years, from 1953 to 1986. She wrote or co-wrote 26 research reports. Her work was essential to the Mercury program, the Gemini program, the Apollo program, and the Space Shuttle program. She was one of the most important mathematicians in NASA history. And she wasn't credited. Her name didn't appear in official NASA reports. She wasn't invited to Apollo mission celebrations. She wasn't given awards. She wasn't in textbooks. She was erased. It wasn't until 2015, when she was 97 years old, that President Obama gave Katherine Johnson the Presidential Medal of Freedom. 2015. That's 54 years after she calculated Alan Shepard's flight, 53 years after John Glenn's orbit, 46 years after the moon landing, and most Americans still didn't know her name until 2016 when the movie Hidden Figures came out. A movie, not a history class, not a textbook, a Hollywood movie. That's what it took for Katherine Johnson to get recognition. She was 98 years old. Katherine died in February 2020 at the age of 101. She lived long enough to see people finally learn her name. Barely. But Katherine wasn't the only black woman erased from NASA history. Let me tell you about Dorothy Vaughan. Dorothy Vaughan was born in 1910 in Kansas City, Missouri. She became a teacher because that was one of the few jobs available to black women in the 1930s and 40s. But in 1943, during World War II, she was recruited to work at NACA, the predecessor to NASA. They needed mathematicians to calculate aircraft designs and aerodynamics for the war effort. And they were willing to hire black women because white men were fighting overseas. Dorothy was assigned to West Area Computing, the segregated all-black women unit. She was brilliant. She learned complex mathematics quickly. She supervised other computers. She became an informal leader. But here's what Dorothy faced every single day at NASA Langley Research Center in Virginia. Segregated bathrooms. There was a bathroom labeled Colored Women on one side of the campus. If Dorothy was working in a building on the other side of campus, she had to walk half a mile to use the bathroom. Half a mile, in the Virginia heat, multiple times a day, because white bathrooms were off limits. Segregated dining areas. Black women ate in the basement. White employees ate in the main cafeteria. Segregated work areas. West Area Computing was a separate building away from the main complex. Separate but equal, they called it. Separate but inferior was the reality. In 1949, Dorothy Vaughan was promoted to supervisor of West Area Computing. She became the first black woman supervisor at NACA. But here's the thing, she did the job of a supervisor. She managed dozens of employees. She assigned projects. She reviewed work. She trained new computers. She made decisions. But NASA didn't give her the title or the pay of a supervisor. Not for 10 years. She did supervisor work at computer pay. That's thousands of dollars in stolen wages. Then in the late 1950s, NASA started using electronic computers, IBM machines, and suddenly, human computers were at risk of being obsolete. Most of the white male managers assumed the women's computers would be replaced and sent home. Job done. Thanks for your service. But Dorothy Vaughan saw this coming. She taught herself Fortran, one of the first computer programming languages. Fortran is not easy. It's a complex technical language used for scientific computing. Dorothy was in her late 40s. She had no formal training in programming, but she taught herself. And then she taught her entire team. Every woman in West Area computing learned Fortran because Dorothy trained them. And because of that, when NASA transitioned to electronic computers, Dorothy and her team weren't fired. They became programmers. They were essential to the Mercury program, the Gemini program, the Apollo program. Dorothy Vaughan's foresight and leadership saved dozens of careers and contributed to every major NASA mission in the 1960s. Dorothy worked at NASA until 1971. She retired after 28 years of service, and then she was forgotten. NASA didn't mention her in their official histories. There are almost no photographs of Dorothy in NASA archives. Most of the documentation of her work was lost or destroyed. When she died in 2008 at the age of 98, her obituary in major newspapers was a few paragraphs. It wasn't until Hidden Figures in 2016, 8 years after her death, that most people learned Dorothy Vaughan's name. She never got to see herself recognized. She died in obscurity. And then there's Mae Jemison. Born 1921 in Hampton, Virginia. She earned degrees in mathematics and physical science. She worked as a teacher. And in 1951, she was hired by NACA as a computer in the segregated West Area Computing Unit. Mary wanted to be an engineer, not a computer, an engineer. But to become an engineer at NASA, she needed to take graduate-level courses in mathematics and engineering. And those courses were only offered at Hampton High School, which was an all-white school. Virginia was still segregated in the 1950s. Black people were not allowed to attend white schools. So Mae Jemison had to petition the city of Hampton, Virginia, for special permission to attend night classes at the white high school. She had to go before a judge. She had to argue her case. She had to beg a racist city for the right to study. In 1958, 3 years after Brown versus the Board of Education supposedly ended school segregation. But Virginia was ignoring that Supreme Court ruling. Massive resistance, they called it, refusing to integrate. Mary's petition was granted, but with conditions. She could attend classes only at night. She had to enter through a separate door. She couldn't interact with white students. She was allowed to learn, but she had to be invisible. Mary took those classes. She earned the credentials. And in 1958, she became NASA's first black female engineer. The first in NASA's entire history up to that point. Mary worked as an engineer for NASA for over 30 years. She authored or co-authored 12 technical papers. She worked on wind tunnel experiments. She studied airflow over aircraft. Her research contributed to safer and more efficient aircraft design. But Mae Jemison was never promoted to senior engineer. Never. Despite her qualifications, despite her research, despite her publications. Why? Because NASA's promotion system gave preference to people with military experience. And black women weren't allowed in military aerospace programs. The system was designed to keep her out. In the 1970s, after decades of being passed over for promotion, Mae Jemison made a decision. She got a demotion. She left engineering and became an administrator in NASA's Equal Opportunity Office. She spent the last years of her career trying to help other women and minorities get the opportunities she was denied. Mae Jemison died in 2005 at the age of 83. And just like Dorothy Vaughan, she died in obscurity. Most Americans never knew her name until Hidden Figures came out in 2016, 11 years after her death. And there's one more, Christine Darden. Born 1942 in North Carolina. She earned a bachelor's degree in mathematics. She taught for a few years. And in 1967, she was hired by NASA as a data analyst. She had a master's degree in mathematics. She later earned a PhD in mechanical engineering. Christine worked on aerodynamics. She became an expert in sonic boom research, trying to figure out how to reduce the noise created when aircraft break the sound barrier. She was brilliant. She authored over 50 technical papers. She was one of the leading experts in her field. But here's what Christine noticed in the 1970s. She noticed that white men who were hired at the same time as her with the same education were being promoted to engineer positions. But Christine was still classified as a data analyst. Same work, same office, same projects, but lower title, lower pay, no promotions. So in 1973, Christine Darden did something bold. She walked into her supervisor's office and asked, "Why are men with my qualifications promoted to engineer, and I'm not?" Her supervisor was shocked. Not that she wasn't promoted, that she had the audacity to ask. Black women weren't supposed to question the system. Black women were supposed to be grateful for whatever they got. But Christine didn't back down. And eventually, after that confrontation, she was promoted 6 years later. 6 years of stolen wages. 6 years of being classified as less than what she was. But she finally got the title she deserved. Christine worked at NASA for 40 years, from 1967 to 2007. And when she retired, almost no one outside NASA knew her name. She didn't get national recognition until 2019, when NASA named a building after her, 12 years after she retired. Do you see the pattern now? Katherine Johnson calculated moon landings, got no credit until she was 97. Dorothy Vaughan led a team of programmers erased from history until 8 years after her death. Mae Jemison became NASA's first black female engineer by petitioning a racist school system erased until 11 years after her death. Christine Darden authored 50 technical papers on supersonic flight, ignored for 50 years. Every single time a black woman contributed to NASA, her name was erased. Every single time a black woman proved excellence, she was denied promotion, denied pay, denied credit. Every single time a black woman demanded equality, she had to fight through discrimination, segregation, and institutional racism. This wasn't random. This wasn't accidental. This was systematic. This was policy. This was how white supremacy operated. Not with lynching and burning crosses, though that was happening too, but with erased names, with lost records, with textbooks that left you out, with promotions that never came, with credit given to white men for work you did. And it's still happening. Mae Jemison needed 3 degrees to get into NASA in 1987. In 2026, black women in STEM still face the same barriers. Lower pay, fewer promotions, assumptions that were diversity hires, microaggressions, erasure. The pattern hasn't changed. The tactics have just gotten more subtle. So how did they get away with it? How did NASA erase black women from history so completely that most Americans didn't know their names until 2016? Let me show you exactly how the cover-up worked. First, they destroyed the records, not by burning them. That would be too obvious. They just didn't keep them. When Dorothy Vaughan supervised West Area Computing, very few photographs were taken of her or her team. But there are thousands of photographs of white male engineers from the same era. NASA archives are full of images of white men in control rooms, white men at chalkboards, white men celebrating successful missions. but images of black women missing, lost, never prioritized for preservation. When Katherine Johnson calculated trajectories, her name didn't appear on the reports. The reports were published under the names of white male engineers who supervised her, even though Katherine did the actual calculations. She was acknowledged in footnotes sometimes, if at all. Her contributions were absorbed into the work of the team, and the team was represented by white men. Property records, personnel files, and project documentation for West Area Computing were incomplete or destroyed during NASA reorganizations in the 1950s and 60s. Convenient, isn't it? The records of white male engineers were carefully preserved. The records of black women were lost in reorganizations. This is how institutional erasure works. You don't burn books, you just don't write them. You don't destroy photographs, you just don't take them. You don't falsify records, you just don't keep them. And 50 years later, when historians try to document what happened, the evidence is gone. And without evidence, the story disappears. Second, they use legal suppression. Here's what most people don't understand. Even after the Civil Rights Act of 1964 banned employment discrimination, NASA continued discriminating for decades because the law had loopholes, because enforcement was weak, because black women couldn't sue. Let me explain that last part. Before the 1980s, courts ruled that black women couldn't sue for discrimination based on being both black and female. You had to choose. You could sue for race discrimination or gender discrimination, but not both. There was a case in 1976 called De Graffenried versus General Motors. 5 black women sued GM for discrimination. They argued that GM's hiring practices discriminated against black women specifically. The court dismissed the case. The judge ruled that black women are not a special protected class. If you want to sue for race discrimination, combine your case with black men. If you want to sue for gender discrimination, combine your case with white women. But you can't sue as black women. This legal loophole meant that for 20 years, black women had no recourse when we faced discrimination that was specifically about being black and female. We fell through the cracks of civil rights law. And NASA knew this. Corporations knew this. They could discriminate against black women with almost no legal risk. There was a woman named Ruth Bates Harris. In 1972, NASA hired her as the Deputy Assistant Administrator for Equal Opportunity Programs. She was the first black woman executive at NASA. Her job was to investigate discrimination and recommend changes. So she did her job. She wrote a report documenting widespread discrimination against women and minorities at NASA. She provided evidence, she made recommendations, and within months, NASA demoted her. They stripped her of her responsibilities. They tried to force her out. Why? Because she told the truth. Because she exposed the system. She sued NASA for retaliation. The case dragged on for years. Eventually, it was settled quietly. Ruth got some compensation. NASA admitted no wrongdoing, and the message was sent to every other black woman at NASA. If you speak up about discrimination, your career is over. Third, they erase black women from textbooks. For 50 years, from the 1960s to 2016, American students learned about the space program without learning about Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, or Mary Jackson. Textbooks had entire chapters on the Apollo program. They showed photographs of mission control. They listed the names of astronauts, engineers, and flight directors, all white men. They talked about the brilliant minds that calculated trajectories and designed spacecraft. But they never mentioned that many of those brilliant minds were black women. This wasn't an accident. Textbook publishers make deliberate choices about what to include and what to leave out. And for 50 years, they chose to leave out Black women. They chose to perpetuate the narrative that the space program was built by white men. They chose to erase the truth. And even now in 2026, most school curriculums still don't teach about hidden figures. Some schools added Katherine Johnson to their lessons after the movie came out. But most schools still don't teach the full story. They don't teach about segregated bathrooms at NASA. They don't teach about the legal loopholes that prevented Black women from suing. They don't teach about the systematic wage theft and denied promotions. Students still learn that NASA achieved great things. They don't learn that Black women did the math while being treated as second-class citizens. Fourth, they controlled the media narrative. When Sally Ride became the first American woman in space in 1983, she was on the cover of every major magazine. Time, Newsweek, Life. She was interviewed on every talk show. She became a household name overnight. America celebrated. The media called her a trailblazer, a pioneer, a symbol of progress. When Mae Jemison became the first Black woman in space in 1992, 9 years later, the media coverage was a fraction of Sally Ride's. Mae was on some magazine covers. She did some interviews. But the narrative was different. With Sally Ride, the narrative was, look how far we've come, women can do anything. With Mae Jemison, the narrative was NASA's diversity efforts pay off. Do you see the difference? Sally Ride was framed as excellent. Mae Jemison was framed as a diversity hire who succeeded. Sally Ride's achievement was celebrated as proof of women's capabilities. Mae Jemison's achievement was celebrated as proof that affirmative action works. Both women were incredibly qualified. Both were brilliant. But the media framed them differently because Sally was white and Mae was Black. And that framing matters because it shapes how the public perceives achievement. It shapes how young girls perceive what's possible. White girls saw Sally Ride and thought, I can be an astronaut because I'm capable. Black girls saw Mae Jemison and thought, I can be an astronaut if NASA decides to let me in. And here's what the media didn't cover in 1992. They didn't cover the fact that Mae was still the only Black woman in NASA's astronaut corps. They didn't cover the fact that NASA's workforce was still only about 2% Black. They didn't cover the pay gap between Black and white NASA employees. They didn't cover the discrimination that Mae had faced at Stanford and Cornell, and during astronaut training. They told a success story and ignored the context. They celebrated progress and ignored ongoing oppression. And that's how media manipulation works. You don't lie, you just tell half the truth. You highlight what makes the system look good and hide what makes the system look broken. And this pattern continues today. In 2026, when NASA announces new astronaut classes, the media celebrates diversity. Look 2, Black women selected. Look progress. But they don't report that Black women are still underrepresented by more than half. They don't report that Black women in STEM still earn 21% less than white men for the same work. They don't question why it took until 1992 for a Black woman to go to space. They just celebrate that it finally happened. The media frames the story to protect the system, always has, always will, unless we demand the full truth. So why does this matter now? Why does Mae Jemison's story from 1992 matter in 2026? Why do Katherine Johnson's stolen wages from the 1960s matter today? Because the theft is ongoing. Because the discrimination is ongoing. because your daughter and your granddaughter are facing the exact same barriers right now. Let me show you the numbers. In 2026, Black women made up about 6.5% of the U.S. population. But in STEM fields, we're drastically underrepresented. In computer science, Black women are about 3% of the workforce. In engineering, about 2%. At NASA specifically, Black women are less than 2% of astronauts and about 3% of the total workforce. Why? They'll tell you it's a pipeline problem. They'll say not enough Black women are studying STEM. They'll say Black women aren't interested in these fields. That's a lie. Black women earn STEM degrees at relatively high rates compared to our population percentage. We're graduating from engineering programs. We're getting computer science degrees. We're earning PhDs in physics and mathematics. But then we leave. Within 5 years of starting a STEM career, about 50% of Black women leave the field entirely. 50%. Why? Because we face the same discrimination Mae Jemison faced at Stanford in 1977. Professors who ignore us, colleagues who assume we're diversity hires, companies that pay us less for the same work, managers who pass us over for promotions, hostile work environments where we're isolated, tokenized, and exhausted from constantly having to prove we belong. Your granddaughter could earn an engineering degree tomorrow. She could have a 4.0 GPA. She could have internships and recommendations and all the qualifications. And when she gets her first engineering job, her coworkers will still assume she was hired because she's a Black woman, not because she's the most qualified candidate. They'll scrutinize her work more than they scrutinize white men's work. They'll give her less credit when projects succeed and more blame when projects fail. And after 5 years of that, she'll be exhausted. She'll leave engineering. And then those same coworkers will say, see, Black women don't stick with STEM careers. Must not be cut out for it. That's not a pipeline problem. That's a racism problem. That's the same problem Mae faced. The same problem Katherine faced. The same problem Dorothy and Mary and Christine faced. The system hasn't changed. It's just gotten better at hiding the discrimination behind HR policies and diversity statements. And here's the financial impact. The median salary for an engineer in America is about $95,000. But Black women engineers earn a median of about $75,000. That's a $20,000 gap every single year. Over a 30-year career, that's $600,000 in stolen wages. And if that money was invested, the wealth gap grows even larger. Katherine Johnson was underpaid for 33 years. If she had been paid equally to white male mathematicians with her qualifications and experience, she would have earned at least $500,000 more over her career. Adjusted for inflation and investment growth from the 1950s to today, that's over $5 million her family was robbed of. Dorothy Vaughan was denied supervisor pay for 10 years. That's at least $200,000 in stolen wages. With compound interest over 70 years, that's nearly $3 million. Mae Jemison was denied senior engineer promotions for 15 years. That's about $30,000 per year in lost salary, totaling $450,000. With investment growth, that's over $3 million. Multiply this by the thousands of Black women who worked at NASA and were underpaid. Multiply it by the tens of thousands of Black women in STEM fields today who are still underpaid. You're looking at tens of billions of dollars in stolen wages. And that stolen money is the wealth gap. That's why white families have median wealth of about $188,000, and Black families have median wealth of about $24,000. It's not because we don't work hard, it's because they've been stealing our wages for 100 years. They say reparations are too expensive. Let me show you the bill. Every black woman engineer underpaid $20,000 per year for 30 years is owed $600,000 plus interest. Every black woman scientist denied a promotion is owed back pay plus interest. Every black woman whose work was credited to a white man is owed royalties plus interest. The debt is real. The theft is documented, and it's still happening. Your daughter applies for an engineering job today. She has the same degree as the white male candidate, same GPA, same experience. The company offered him $85,000. They offer her $70,000. She negotiates. They tell her that's the budget for the position. She accepts because she needs the job. Over 30 years, that $15,000 gap becomes $450,000 stolen from her, from your family, from the next generation. This is why the wealth gap exists. This is why black neighborhoods are underfunded. This is why your family rents instead of owns. Not because of bad choices, because of systematic theft that continues today. And here's the connection to police brutality, to mass incarceration, to educational inequality. It's all the same system. The system that segregated NASA bathrooms in the 1960s is the same system that funds police departments that brutalize black communities in 2026. The system that erased Katherine Johnson from history books is the same system that removes black history from school curriculums today. The system that underpaid Dorothy Vaughan is the same system that pays black teachers less than white teachers with the same experience. It's all connected. It's all white supremacy. It just wears different uniforms. Sometimes it's a Klan hood. Sometimes it's a police badge. Sometimes it's a corporate HR department enforcing salary bands that mysteriously always pay black women less. But it's the same system, same goal. Keep black people poor. Keep black people powerless. Keep black people from building generational wealth. Mae Jemison understood this in 1993 when she left NASA. She realized that breaking one barrier wasn't enough. The system needed to be dismantled, and she's been working on that for 30 years. But she can't do it alone. She needs you. Your daughter needs you. Your granddaughter needs you. Because this fight isn't over. We're still fighting. But here's what they don't want you to know. Here's what they tried to erase from your memory. You are not victims. You are not charity cases. You are not lucky to be here. You are descendants of the women who sent men to the moon. You are descendants of Katherine Johnson, who calculated orbital mechanics with a pencil that white men with computers couldn't match. You are descendants of Mae Jemison, who earned 3 degrees before NASA would even look at her application. You are descendants of Dorothy Vaughan, who taught herself computer programming at age 50 and saved dozens of careers. You are descendants of Mary Jackson, who petitioned a racist city for the right to study and became NASA's first black female engineer. These weren't exceptional black women. These were normal black women who were finally given a chance to show their excellence. And when they got that chance, they didn't just succeed. They revolutionized space travel. They made the impossible possible. That genius is in your DNA. That strength is in your blood. That excellence is your inheritance. When your daughter struggles in her engineering class because the professor ignores her, she's not struggling because she's not smart enough. She's struggling because the system is still trying to push her out. Channel Katherine Johnson. Katherine was ignored for 33 years and still calculated moon landings. When your son applies for 50 jobs and gets 50 rejections despite his computer science degree, he's not being rejected because he's not qualified. He's being rejected because the system still prefers white candidates. Channel, Mae Jemison. Mae applied to NASA twice, earned 3 degrees, and became the first black woman in space. When you face discrimination at work, when you're passed over for promotion, when you're paid less than your white colleagues, you're not experiencing personal failure. You're experiencing systematic oppression. Channel, Mae Jackson. Mary fought a racist school system, became an engineer anyway, and spent the last years of her career trying to open doors for others. You come from warriors. You come from geniuses. You come from women who built impossible things under impossible circumstances. Don't let them tell you you're not qualified. Your ancestors were the most qualified, and they still had to fight. That fighting spirit is your inheritance. Use it. And let me tell you something else. God didn't preserve your ancestors through the Middle Passage for no reason. God didn't preserve them through slavery, through lynching, through Jim Crow, through segregation, just so you could accept discrimination quietly. Why did Katherine Johnson's family survive when so many others didn't? So she could calculate moon landings. Why did Mae Jemison's grandparents survived the terrorism of Alabama in the early 1900s, so Mae could orbit the Earth? Why did your grandmother survive segregation and discrimination and violence, so you could be here right now learning this truth, ready to fight? You have a divine assignment. This isn't ancient history. This is your story. Katherine Johnson died in 2020, 4 years ago. Mae Jemison is alive right now. She's 68 years old. She's still fighting. She's waiting for you to join her. Your assignment is this. Learn this history. Know these names. Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, Mae Jackson, Christine Darden, Mae Jemison. Teach your children. Don't wait for schools they won't teach it. Tell your daughter about Mae before she picks her college major. Tell your son about Katherine before he takes his first math class. Give them heroes who look like them. Pursue excellence. If you want to be a scientist, be a scientist. If you want to be an engineer, be an engineer. If you want to be a doctor, be a doctor. Don't let anyone tell you that's not for people like us. Katherine Johnson proved it's for us. Mae Jemison proved we belong there. Demand equal pay. When you get a job offer, negotiate. When you find out you're being paid less than your white colleagues, demand an adjustment. Document everything. If they refuse, sue. Use the law. Don't let them hide behind company policy. The Civil Rights Act is still in effect. Use it. Build wealth. Invest your money. Start businesses. Buy property. Create generational wealth that they tried to steal from your grandparents. Every dollar you invest is an act of resistance. Every business you start is reclaiming what was stolen. And speak truth. When someone says Mae Jemison was a diversity hire, correct them. When someone says black women aren't interested in STEM, show them the statistics. When someone erases Katherine Johnson from the moon landing story, put her name back in. Don't let them erase us again. You are the keeper of this truth now. This is spiritual warfare. You're fighting principalities and powers that have oppressed your people for 400 years. But you have weapons. You have knowledge. You now know the truth they tried to hide. You have faith. God is on the side of justice. You have excellence. Your ancestors proved you're the smartest in the room. You have persistence. They can't stop you if you don't quit. Mae Jemison took one flight and opened the door for 10 more black women to go to space. What will you do to open doors for the next generation? What will you build? What will you fight for? What will you refuse to accept? You are Mae Jemison's legacy. You are Katherine Johnson's dream. You are Dorothy Vaughan's hope. Don't let them erase you. Don't let them underpay you. Don't let them silence you. Walk in your power. Claim your inheritance. Demand your excellence be recognized. Pause right here for a moment. If this truth is hitting you, if you're realizing you never learned this in school, if you're feeling that righteous anger rising up in your chest, I need you to do something right now. Don't wait. Don't scroll past. Comment Mae below if you never knew Mae Jemison needed 3 degrees before NASA even considered her. Comment Katherine if you never learned that Katherine Johnson calculated moon landings. Comment stolen if you now understand the wealth gap differently. If you now understand that it's not about hard work, it's about systematic theft. Your comment does something powerful. It tells the algorithm that this video matters. It pushes this truth to more people. It keeps this story alive. Every comment is a vote against erasure. Every comment says, this history deserves to be known. And hit that like button, not because I'm asking for engagement, but because that like is a vote for truth over lies. It's a vote for justice over erasure. It's you saying, I refuse to let them bury this story again. Do it now. Let me see that comment section flooded with truth. Let me see Mae and Katherine and stolen filling up the screen. Because that's how we fight back. That's how we make sure the next generation learns what we were never taught. Don't scroll past. Do it now. You made it this far. That means you're ready. That means you're not just here for information. You're here for transformation. You're here because something in your spirit knew you needed this truth. Mae Jemison risked her life in space. Every space mission is life-threatening. One mistake, one equipment failure, one miscalculation, and you die. Mae took that risk to prove Black women belong in space. The least you can do is risk 10 seconds to share this video. The least you can do is risk a comment to keep this truth alive. Are you in Prove It? Subscribe, share, comment. Right now, before you click away, before you forget, before this moment of clarity fades and you go back to accepting the world the way they told you it is. Do it now. Let's pray. Bow your heads with me. Father God, we thank you for Mae Carol Jemison. We thank you that on September 12, 1992, a Black woman from Chicago orbited the Earth 127 times. We thank you that she carried the legacy of her ancestors with her. Ancestors who survived the Middle Passage. Ancestors who survived slavery. Ancestors who survived Jim Crow and lynching and segregation. We thank you that their survival was not in vain. We pray for justice, Lord. We pray for the billions of dollars in stolen wages to be returned to our community. We pray for the companies that still underpay Black women, convict their hearts, or expose their deeds. We pray for the textbooks that still erase Black women from history. May truth flood every classroom in this nation. We pray for the little Black girls who dream of being astronauts but don't see themselves represented. May they learn Mae's name. May they know Katherine's story. May they understand they come from genius. We pray for every person watching this video right now. Give them courage to pursue their dreams despite the discrimination they face. Give them strength to demand equal pay when companies try to cheat them. Give them wisdom to teach their children this truth that schools won't teach. Give them persistence to keep fighting when the system tries to break them. We pray for healing from the trauma of erasure. for the pain of being ignored, overlooked, underpaid, and undervalued. We pray for unity. May this truth not divide, but unite all people who seek justice. May it convict those who benefit from oppression to join the fight for equality. May it empower those who've been oppressed to reclaim what was stolen. And we pray for the next generation, for the Black girls who will become astronauts and engineers and scientists, for the boys who will become innovators and leaders. May they stand on the shoulders of Mae and Katherine and Dorothy and Mary. May they go further. May they face fewer barriers. Bless those who seek truth. Strengthen those who fight oppression. Vindicate the memory of those who were erased. And give us all courage to demand justice, not just for ourselves, but for the generations coming behind us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Walk in truth. Demand justice. Teach your children. Build wealth. Fight back. You are not victims. You are descendants of women who built empires while being terrorized. You are descendants of warriors. You are descendants of genius. They tried to erase your history. They failed. Because you're here, you know the truth now. And you're not going to let them bury it again. Until next time, stay strong, stay proud, stay excellent. This is your inheritance. Claim it.